All right, let's bring in Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com. The Times picking you to talk about Saints and their offseason. He's also got an article on NOLA.com right now talking about the 5-year anniversary of the NOLA no call, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But Mickey Loomis, dodgy yet prepared for the media and their questions. Is this how you kind of sum up what the season-ending press conference was with him?
Yeah, look, Juan, we've seen Mickey Loomis all through the years here. There was nothing surprising, I thought, of what he said. I mean, he's always going to kind of be even keel. He's not going to be too sensational, not going to be too negative. He's going to be supportive of his head coach. And let's face it, Juan, he hired Dennis Allen. That's reflective on his management there. He's always going to support him. So I thought it was interesting that so many people were surprised at how optimistic he was. That's just the way Mickey Loomis carries himself.
And that's how the organization has carried itself for many years. They're not going to make a jump to judgment, a rush to judgment. They're going to take their time with this. You think it's the right move bringing Dennis back for one more year?
Yeah, look, I think so. I mean, obviously he's got to win next year, but I think 2 years would have been a quick trigger for them. That's not the way they operate. We've seen it not only with the New Orleans Saints, but also on the Pelicans across the parking lot. How loyal, how supportive, how they like continuity out there. Now, we'll see. He's got to win next year, though. This was their year. They fell short of expectations. He's got no one else to blame after this.
And without throwing him under the bus, he praised yet recognized that now is the time for them to make a move past Pete Carmichael. Great job with the Saints. Been there for almost 2 decades. But even Mickey recognized that at that area of the offense, there needs to be a change.
Yeah, I think they need some new blood in there. I mean, I think they need some fresh ideas. It just felt stagnant, right, all year long. How many times do we talk about it on this program, Juan, where it just felt like it was the same thing every week? I think they're trying to kickstart things on the offensive side of the ball. They feel good about their defense. But I think it's refreshing, if you're a Saints fan, that they're willing to go outside of the Saints bubble. Now, they're going to look at some interior candidates, but I think it's also indicative of maybe a new direction away from the Sean Payton offense that they've run now for the last 2 decades. That might be good for this attack.
I was going to say that they've run this offense since, 2006?
Yes.
It's been the same. It varies a little bit after Sean Payton left here with Pete taking over, but it is the same offense, so defenses aren't having to prepare that much for something new.
Yeah, but I tell you this, Juan, this is interesting. It's a big risk for Dennis Allen right now. I mean, Dennis Allen, we know is going to be on the hot seat next year. He has to win.
Yeah.
Yet he's willing maybe to go outside of his comfort zone and outside of Derek Carr's comfort zone and bring in a coordinator that might have a totally new system, totally new scheme. Is that going to work with Derek Carr? We saw the growing pains they went through this year. I think it's a big risk for Dennis Allen considering everything that's on the line next year, but he's got no other choice. He's got to win next year, and he knows he's got to change the offense.
And they like how the team finished the season, winning 4 of their last 5 games. Derek Carr played better down the stretch, healthy or not. He said he was feeling a lot better in the season. That helps his team going forward because maybe you don't look so much at the quarterback position early in the draft now.
Well, there's no question. Derek Carr, the second half of the year compared to the first half of the year, night and day. Now, a lot of bad teams he was going against. He wasn't going against a lot of elite defenses. But nevertheless, I think you saw enough there to have confidence that at least you can ride Derek Carr for next season and then maybe make a decision on is he your long-term answer there. Contractually, they can get out of the deal after next season. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do this offseason with his contract. If they rework it, that means he's here for a while. If they leave it alone, it's basically a 1-year prove-it deal for him.
And Derek Carr pretty much showed enough in the last 5 games that maybe he warrants kind of reorganizing his contract. Defensively speaking, one thing that surprised me, Dennis Allen said that defense did not look old. And I'm wondering, Jeff, is he not seeing what everyone else is seeing?
Yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes Mickey tends to, be a little delusional, if, for lack of a better word. I don't think he's seeing the same thing you and I are seeing. This defense, to me, in the front 7, really slowed down. That's why teams were able to successfully run the ball on them. And they weren't playing great teams at the end of the year either. When they lined up against really good offenses like the Rams, they got exposed. And I think it should be something everyone in that building pays attention to because this defense, their 3 best players are probably in their mid-30s. While DeMario Davis is still playing well, the rest of them, I think, are losing a step.
And DeMario didn't have his best season. I mean, he played decent down the stretch. He wouldn't say anything about free agency, but let's talk about some guys, offense and defense. Michael Thomas, worth the investment, or do you think they have enough there with Thomas out and seeing what they had to let him go?
No, I definitely think they move on from Mike Thomas. Another season of injuries, another season of not producing on the field. And then there was just the off the field things that happened. I don't think they want their young receivers following the lead of Mike Thomas at this point. They can find someone, I think they did, on the roster, with A.T. Perry and with Juwan Johnson that can do some of the things Mike Thomas can do. I think they want to try and turn the page on Mike Thomas this year.
So let's talk about Alvin Kamara. Worth the investment or a better trade piece to get more pieces for a draft to get younger?
Well, they're probably going to have to move someone like an Alvin Kamara. He certainly is a tradable asset. I think he's the kind of guy that probably still has 2 or 3 years left. But Juan, if you look across the board at the analytics on his rushing, they're down in every department.
Yeah.
Making defenders miss, production yards per carry, just all the things you look at, you see a running back. He used to be at the top of the league in that. Now he's down near the bottom of the league. So I think it's something they have to look at, considering he's probably still got some trade value with another team.
Another guy with trade value with the Saints right now, Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback. Worth the investment for the future, and a guy that's been injured as well, or maybe a guy to trade and get some pieces?
Well, he's trickier to trade contractually. He's got a lot. The Saints have a lot more invested in him, so it hurts them more against the cap. But on the other hand, they could probably get more for Marshawn Lattimore because he plays a premium position. He's still playing at a very high level, but someone's going to have to take on that contract. He's not performing at the level he's being paid, just like Alvin Kamara. Those are the decisions that the brain trust, Mickey Loomis, Kai Harley, Dennis Allen, they have to decide, are these guys worth coming back? I would say this, though. I think they could move Lattimore and be okay in the secondary. We saw them at the end of the year with the young corners, Alante Taylor, Paulson Adebo, who's emerged. They're okay in the secondary without him, but it's just a matter of can they make it work cap-wise.
It feels like if they move Kamara and if they move Lattimore, that signals a rebuild.
Well, I don't know if it necessarily still a rebuild. I think what it's saying is we're resetting here and transitioning to some younger players. I mean, both those guys are from the 2017 draft class. They're still in their prime, but they're at the very end of their prime. And you always tell you, Juan, in the NFL, trade them a year before they drop off. And I think in this case with those two players, you'd be doing the right thing.
So what's their priority when the draft comes around?
Well, I think they've got to get a pass rusher, and I think they have to get someone up front.
They've had no luck with getting pass rushers.
I know, I know. Or they have to develop Peyton Turner and hope Isaiah Foskey comes along. The other position I think you have to look at is tackle. You've got questions at both right tackle with Ryan Ramczyk, his health, and, of course, we know Trevor Penning has not panned out there, so that's a position of need.
They've got to get Trevor Penning up to speed.
Yeah, and I think they're going to send him off this offseason to some offensive line specialty camps, try and get his confidence back, get him back fundamentally sound again, and just start from scratch next year.
Yep. Mickey said it was their fault that he's not up to speed to where he should be right now. As I mentioned earlier before we started this interview, the no call still stings 5 years later. In the top 5 of missed calls by referees in NFL history, you think?
I think it's number one.
It's number one?
It's got to be number one. I mean, how could one be above that? Considering the stakes, everything on the line, the Saints are less than 2 minutes away from a second Super Bowl. The cost of that missed call, not only in the pocketbook of a lot of players, but also to the legacies of people like Sean Payton, Drew Brees, who are trying to get back to the Super Bowl. That means a lot to their legacies as far as getting in the Hall of Fame, getting a gold jacket, and also I think for the fan base to get another chance to celebrate. I mean, I think they would have beaten the New England Patriots, no doubt in my mind. They certainly would have performed better than the Rams. So to be so close and to have it out of your hands, it wasn't like your own player made a mistake or your coach made a bad call. It was out of your hands with an official's call. Very, very hard to stomach.
And again, you can check out that article on NOLA.com right now. It's a really, really good read.